Baghdad, March 2013. The last U.S. combat troops left Iraq 15 months earlier. But one American and his team was still working to fight Iraq Reconstruction waste and fraud and help bring its perpetrators to justice. Stuart Bowen, Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction, or SIGIR. For nearly a decade, Stuart Bowen watched over every penny of the more than $60 billion appropriated by Congress to help rebuild Iraq. And with his team of auditors and investigators, SIGIR identified and pursued to justice those who stole and acted improperly.
And our timeline is short, and so we have to move now, and if we're going to hit the target, we have to talk to all these people.
When the 2003 Iraq War ended, the country was shattered. Along with reestablishing the rule of law, the U.S.-led coalition also faced the challenge of helping Iraq piece back together its badly damaged infrastructure. People needed electricity, water, and other essential services. U.S. involvement in Iraq's reconstruction lasted nearly a decade, beginning with the Coalition Provisional Authority that controlled Iraq during the first year after the war. Stuart Bowen was there. Then he became SIGIR in February 2004 and continued to make trip after trip to Baghdad and other places in Iraq to see firsthand how his in-country team was running its audits and inspections. In March 2013, Inspector General Bowen was back in Baghdad for the 34th time during the week marking the 10th anniversary of the launch of the 2003 war. The news media was also there. It sought out the Inspector General for his perspectives on the effort to rebuild Iraq. In this live appearance from Baghdad on the Al Jazeera TV network, Stuart Bowen explained why he came back.
I'm here to deliver to the Iraqi leadership our final major lessons learned study called Learning from Iraq. This is an important work in that it was built upon 44 interviews I did with Iraqis, the recipients of U.S. funds, the U.S. leadership who executed it, and the Congress, the United States Congress, who provided it. And collectively, these interviews tease out a series of themes that, frankly, have evolved into lessons that the United States must address in order to improve its approach to stabilization and reconstruction operations.
Stuart Bowen went to see the Iraqi Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, to discuss the report and the leader's perspectives, both on it and on the reconstruction effort. The Inspector General also met with the Iraqi Deputy Prime Minister, Hossein al-Shahrastani, whose critical points regarding reconstruction were acknowledged.
We must learn from Iraq as the United States because, as you said, I'd use your quotes when I talked to the media. You said it was well-intentioned, poorly planned, and badly executed. Yes, and why? Not because of our intentions, as you say, but because we're not structured. It's the structure. It's the structure. I'm sorry. And as the Prime Minister said, when you spend $55 billion, you expect more. And you said that too.
The Iraqi Deputy Prime Minister, however, acknowledged that much of this reconstruction work was done at a time when security was thin or non-existent, which made getting projects completed both slower and risky.
Our change to democracy was brought about at a time when international terrorism had been very active worldwide.
Yes.
Particularly in the Middle East.
Yes.
And Iraq was chosen as the main battlefield.
Yes.
And the Iraqi people had to pay the price.
Sadly, yes.
Along with thousands of Iraqis killed, so were at least 719 reconstruction workers. One of them was SIGIR auditor Paul Converse, who died in March 2008 from a rocket fired on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. 5 other SIGIR members were injured in other attacks. Violence isn't the only plague Iraq has suffered from. Corruption has been vast, with some estimates that billions in Iraqi government funds have disappeared through money laundering and other means. One Iraqi official, Stuart Bowen, is praised for his efforts to instill transparency and accountability as Dr. Abdel Basit, now the head of the Central Bank of Iraq. When they met in March, the symbolism behind the picture on the cover of SIGIR's Learning from Iraq report was pointed out.
The picture is so dusty.
Oh, it's how we lived.
يقول هاي الطريقة اللي
You know,
عايشين
actually,
بيها.
it's visually symbolic. Trying to get accountability is like driving in a dust storm.
يقول يعني هذه رمزي انه من اذا تريد تحصل على مساءلة كأنك بدك تقود سيارة بعاصفة رملية.
أنا
عاصفة ترابية.
قلت لهم باجتماع الانتوساي هذا الاجتماع الأخير في فيينا.
I told them in the UN Intosai meeting, the last one in Vienna.
أن عندي أحد الأصدقاء أقول دائما إحنا مواطنو البلد الحقيقة دائما.
That I have a friend whom I told always that we are the citizens of the country of the truth.
Amen.
In a Baghdad interview with Washington Post correspondent Ernesto Londono, IG Bowen said Dr. Bassett was the person Iraq needed now and earlier.
That's the right choice to head the Central Bank of Iraq because the most essential element needed in leadership there is integrity. It being the center of this money laundering problem. Right. And I met with him, he said he learned, the first thing he learned when he got over there is that the money laundering regulations, which the bank is supposed to enforce, have never been enforced.
The March 2013 Learning from Iraq report states that out of the more than $60 billion appropriated by Congress for Iraq reconstruction, at least $8 billion of that, 15%, was lost to waste and to fraud, despite efforts to fight it, a point restated in a Baghdad interview with an Iraqi TV channel where SIGIR's Sahar Salim served as translator.
What procedures were taking to limit corruption?
Well, the most important procedure was the Congress's creation of my office in late 2003. I arrived on my first trip to Iraq in February 2004, and since March of 2004, I've had auditors and investigators on the ground reviewing how the money was spent. And we've identified in our work many shortfalls, and the waste was at least $8 billion in U.S. money.
In meeting after meeting with Iraqi officials, they told the Inspector General that they felt the United States did not properly engage and listen to them during the reconstruction process. One of them was Iraqi Council of Representatives Speaker Osama al-Nujaifi.
And as you say, Mr. Speaker, and others said, I think that the two big mistakes in the program were the failure to consult. To ask the Iraqis what they really needed. And instead to do as Deputy Secretary Burns told me, who I know you've met with, he said, we tried to do it our way and do it all ourselves.
When Stuart Bowen met with Member of Parliament and former Finance and Interior Minister Bayan Jaber, he told the Iraqi official that his country needed to set up a much more robust Inspector General system than the one first put in after the 2003 war, one that covers Iraq's layers of government from top to bottom.
This office would report both the Council of Ministers and the Integrity Committee on the Parliament. So two reporting, so you have balance, right? You have to have both. And it would maintain on its list, and a continuing flowing list, what are the top 10 corruption issues or issues that need to be investigated, however you want to describe it, in Iraq. Whether federal, state, any ministry, any level. And then investigations, audits, and inspections.
During his March 2013 visit, IG Bowen met with U.S. Ambassador to Iraq Stephen Beecroft to discuss details from the Learning from Iraq report. Then he walked down the hall in the embassy to the office of U.S. Agency for International Development Country Director Tom Stahl, who noted how U.S. reconstruction oversight and best practices have also impacted the Iraqi government.
Now when the Iraqi government does procurement, they don't just give grants to their brother-in-law, their contracts, they actually use international procurement standards. Not perfect yet, it needs more work, but they're moving in that direction.
Right.
And I like to think those kind of things are part of the legacy of what we've left behind.
The Iraq experience had a legacy for the United States as well. Stuart Bowen told Al Jazeera that future efforts to rebuild post-war states must be done differently if they are to be effective.
7 lessons, 7 final lessons to draw from the Iraq Reconstruction experience. First and foremost, there is a compelling and current need to reform, to improve the United States approach to planning, executing, and overseeing stabilization and reconstruction operations. Right now, it's not clear who's in charge of doing any of those things.
IG Bowen's proposal to create a central point in charge, the U.S. Office for Contingency Operations, became a bill in Congress after Learning from Iraq laid out the details of the idea. Iraq's reconstruction was done for the people of that nation, to improve their lives today and to help ensure that they will have even better lives tomorrow. Stuart Bowen's near decade of work and that of his SIGIR colleagues have helped to ensure that outcome.